Number 15 is an interesting one because what she does well is so obvious. She hits it about as hard and as flat with about as little margin as any human on earth. So one Tuesday, she can absolutely drill your favorite player 2-2. The next week, she can lose to someone you've never heard of 2-2. Always with a comment, maybe a little bit of snark on the side. Yelena Ostapenko. How would you describe her to viewers and listeners who aren't fluent in the musings of Yelena Ostapenko?
Do you invest in crypto? No, there's a lot of volatility index here. And she gets, at least on tennis social media and tennis Twitter, she sort of, you speak to her and you're like, she gets it. She's cool. She understands that her on-court persona isn't necessarily off-court persona.
Is that right? I don't know her off the court at all. I only know on-court, and it's petty and it's angry sometimes, and it's annoying maybe to her opponents.
We asked her about it at Wimbledon. She came to the studio with Steve Weissman, and we were sort of joking about it. We'll show you how to shake hands properly. You look someone in the eye and you say that's a match well played. The fact that she would go through that exercise, this is someone who I think probably gets a little caught up in the heat of combat. Remember, this is a major winner. This is somebody who's she retired tomorrow and she'll forever be known as someone who won a tennis major. Some days she's on and some days she can't find the court at all. And she needs sort of GPS to find her serve. And other days you say, no wonder she won a major. It's a lot of fun to have someone like this in the cast. I mean, asking someone like that to string together 7 straight wins, that might be a bit of a challenge, just who's so up and down. But, she's 27 years old now, and I really she won that Roland Garros in 2017, and it was sort of, well, this is one of the craziest results ever. It doesn't look that crazy anymore. This is a really solid top tier player. She hasn't won a second major, but she also hasn't disappeared either. A fun person to have in the tennis cast. She'll win title. I mean, she won titles this year. This is someone who can play some really high level tennis. I just don't know. I don't know if the conditioning is there. She also plays a nice game of doubles, by the way. Sidebar. Love having her in the cast. I'm not sure I'm betting on her to win a second major, but this is a force of good.
Yeah, and so this is digest this how you want. She won the least amount of matches of anyone in the top 20 this year at 29. Vika in second place at 13, but played less events than Ostapenko. So it tells you two things. A bit of a heart rate monitor, like we mentioned before, up and down, no surprise to anyone. That's like, saying gravity keeps us on the ground. But it also shows that she can win matches in big point total events. You mentioned being a Grand Slam winner. What went right? Ball went in more than it went out for her. And she is going to swing away at the next one. There's not going to be a lot of subtlety. But as you mentioned, if she's an elite striker as far as pacing the ball, she's that bad of a mover when she gets extended and tries to play defense. That's an obvious room for improvement area. You move a lot less when your second serve is better. You're normally getting that first strike in the middle of the court. Her second serve is not very good. Does she up the risk on it sometimes? Is there a way to move it around the box? Those are questions I would be asking. Sometimes you can fix a problem like movement if you're Ostapenko, or at least help it and assist it by making sure the preceding shot is a little bit more effective, right? If you can, move a couple steps less every set, then that's a net win. And in this game at the highest levels, those margins matter. So I'd be curious to see if her team is playing around with that. I would be curious to see if she's receptive to those suggestions when someone brings them to her. But listen, she's just really good, and she's really scary. I think she was 4-0 against Swiatek. Swiatek might have won one, but she has a game that is a complete disruptor if you don't like the style that she plays, right? She can really bother people with her style, as proven over and over and over again. Number 14, Anna Kalinskaya. She made a big jump this year, right? We've seen her for a lot of years. She was, coming in this year, I'm guessing she was somewhere between 60, 70, had some big successes earlier in the year over in the Middle East, and then kind of continued and had a really, really, really good year. 38 wins, 19 losses. Again, that 2-to-1 ratio is a real ratio. Someone, 45, 50 in the world, maybe 500, and she doubled them up. So she was winning a lot more matches more consistently than she was losing. Hits a huge ball off the ground, a deceiving ball. So breakout year for her. She wants to build on that success, right? Is she someone who is going to be a consistent performer in the top 15 with an eye on the top 10? Or is she someone whose upside is 15 and maybe floats between, 15 and 45? What's your take on what you saw from Kalinskaya?
Yeah, I mean, she had that magical week in Dubai where she beat, we had that on Tennis Channel. She beat Ostapenko, she beat Coco, she beat Iga. She lost to this little known player named Jasmine Paolini, who I'm sure we'll be getting to. But no, I don't know to what extent Kalinskaya is sort of maxing out and is pushing against the upper limits of her potential, which, she's a top 15 player. That's quite impressive. I'm not sure she has the signature shots and the weapons. She's a Knights athlete. I'm not sure if that was a magical week in Dubai or if this is someone who can get a lot higher than 14, but a very nice year for her. And I do this guardedly and at our peril, but to what extent is it going to impact her career being the significant other of the number one player on the men's tour? I usually am reluctant to sort of talk about relationships, how they intersect with tennis, but this seems like an extraordinary set of circumstances for any number of reasons, and I wonder how that might impact her 2025.
Something we'll probably never know. And I think I'm perfectly okay with that. I think, listen, her significant other had a career year, and props to her because she did too. Hopefully more to come for her. Another victory for college tennis. Diana Schneider played at NC State, came out maybe the sneakiest player to have ever won 4 titles in 1 year. 4 titles in 1 year. I mean, if you put in context, there are people we talk about a lot who have won 7 or 8 career titles. And someone's like, oh, maybe some of them are at lower level events. I don't care. Winning is winning is winning is winning on the pro tour. Plays lefty, is able to mix things up. I like her game. I think she's capable of making big runs. Her style, the general leftiness, the way that she's able to put matches together, she's proven she can win 5 and 6 in a row, as evidenced by those 4 titles. I have a lot of fun watching Shnaider play. I really like her game.
Agree 100%. She's number 13 in the world. Never mind the fact, she had this college tennis commitment. She did very well at the Australian Open 2 years ago, kept her commitment, shows up on campus and played a college tennis season, only 20 years old. So we may only have one teenager in the top 100, but here now we're talking about 2 20 and under in the top 15. A lot to like here. This is complete marginalia, having nothing to do with anything. But the only player I think who warms up by throwing a football. She's ready to go on court, and there's a lefty spiral zinging by everyone in the tunnel. What is it? It's Diana Schneider's warm-up entails throwing a football. So 13 is a really high ranking for a player who was, eating dorm food 18 months ago. Good for her. I agree with you a lot. I think that the lefty look is always impressive. I think her fitness is getting better. Not a big, physically imposing 6-foot-tall player, but there's a lot to like here and a lot of sort of shape and style to her game.
Who had the 3rd most match wins in the top or on tour this year? Anybody? Bueller?
Without looking it up.
Anybody? Diana Schneider. 55. Whoa. 3rd, ahead of Coco Gauff, just behind Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek. 55 wins is a lot of wins.
That's crazy.
You break that. That's
Taylor Fritz level wins.
Correct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's an impressive year. I think there's more to come. I don't know that this is a career high ranking for her. Props. She competes. She finds ways to win. I've really enjoyed watching her this year, and again, just continue with this momentum. Like it's a type of player who's been playing so well this year that you almost don't want one of the few that doesn't want the offseason to come. But I like what she's doing. She, like you mentioned, she had a huge breakout, and when she came to tour full time, kept that progression going. She hasn't really had a lot of valleys so far in her career, which is telling. It means you show up every week. But 55 wins, that's a massive number. So congrats to her, and more to come in 2025. I actually like her upside a lot. Number 12 is it's just time to give props. Okay. a year ago, coming off a back fracture, saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it back, lots of stops and starts. She had been number 2 in the world. We are talking about Paula Badosa. And you tell her a year ago, with the way that she felt and the struggles that she had, that she is going to get off the mat and finish at 12 in the world. Hell of an effort from Paula Badosa. It seems like everyone on tour kind of likes her. I don't know her, but generally seems to be a champion of the locker room as well. But props to her, right? Would have been very easy to kind of go away. She put her head down, made those inroads, and got back to somewhere in the vicinity of where she probably thinks she should be. So if we were doing this a year ago, it would have been, okay, the only thing in 2024 is to work hard, get healthy. I would have said getting back into the top 50 is a great year. She said, screw that. I'll finish at 12.
She was ranked 139 at Roland Garros.
Yeah.
She started the year outside the top 100, had a tough time to start the year. I think also, she was one of actually the stars of Breakpoint. I mean, she was very candid, and we saw sort of, one thing I took away from her Breakpoint was just you saw the conflation of physical injury and mental injury. We usually say, it was a physical. Well, here's a perfect example of how these are intertwined, and when you're not healthy, that affects a lot more than the injured body part. I give her a lot of credit. I don't know if we're doing sort of the standard comeback player of the year, but she would sure get my vote. And to see her at number 12, having won a lot of matches, again, 6 months ago, not in the top 100, that tells you something. This player, she got to number 2 in the world, so there's some track record here. I think, candidly, probably 2 in the world is probably deceptively, probably a little too high. But Lord knows she doesn't belong outside the top 100. So I think she ought to be really happy with her season, and we'll see how she builds on it.
Yeah, and for her, what is it now? It's building and playing well in major events. She made the quarters of the U.S. Open, had a rough one there. She just did what you're supposed to do as a professional at a certain level and got back. Not everyone gets back from those injuries, stress fractures and backs, and I'm sure there are a million other little things going on. The mental side of that, as you had mentioned, nothing but respect for her, what she did. I knew she was somewhere, I would have said probably 16, 17, 18, 12 is a real number. I mean, that's props to her. Great work. Really, really, really showing something. And listen, props. I hope for continued success, and maybe more importantly, and part of that success, continued health for Paula Badosa, because certainly tennis is better when she's there playing healthy and mixing it up. I mean, I think this was 10 out of 10 result for year end based on where she was, even as John mentioned, as recently as Roland Garros this year. Just a great job from her. And number 11. Mike?
Oh, yeah.
You know who it is?
The Danimal.
The Danimal. You love the Danimal.
So she's back.
I thought this one was going to be what went well in 2024, and we would mention Miami, and we would mention Charleston, where for a 3-week span, she was the best player on earth. And then we'd say, what has to improve in 2025? And we would say nothing, because she is retired and is going on to the next phase of her life, without getting too far into the weeds of someone's personal journey and the decisions that dictate that journey. She's back to the benefit of us all, and especially producer Mike as the number one Danimal fan.
Yeah,
you're a fanimal of the Danimal.
Yeah, huge,
big Danimal fanimal. But listen, for the 3 weeks when she was playing great. She's a great ball striker. She's great at controlling the middle of the court. For those 3 weeks, she was hitting herself out of problems from the corners. And it was almost a tale of, she built up this ranking of 11 in about 6 weeks or 8 weeks through, from Miami to Rome, basically. Took a loss early at Roland Garros. Didn't really get her footing back for the rest of the year. Struggled post-US Open. Struggled with Billie Jean King Cup. I think there were some injuries. I think there was some stuff potentially away from the tennis court. But listen, man, when she caught lightning in a bottle for those 8 weeks. It's fun to watch someone who knows exactly where the ball is going when it comes off their racket every time. And she had that for a couple of months. And it's really cool to see someone who is not 21 years old, who has been out there for a while, who have paid their dues, have been in big tournaments, win the biggest title of her career in Miami in a major prestigious event.
It was in Australia that she basically, there was nothing self-indulgent or particularly flamboyant. She just sort of flatly, it's in keeping with her MO for her entire career, just flatly, no bullshit, said, this is it. This is my last year. And that really seemed to unlock something for about, and it was more than, a week or two. I mean, for a good 6 month stretch, 6 week stretch, she was like MVP of women's tennis. Cooled off a little. And as you referenced, clearly there was some things going on off the court. She now, of course, is deciding to continue on in 2025 for reasons that, as selfishly as fans and in the media, people who admire her game, great that she's playing, but these weren't the conditions under which she wanted to basically unretire. It'll be interesting to see what her mindset is in 2025. But I think this is a player, honestly, who used to be a bit polarizing, and even other players would say she's too demonstrative and the yelling and the fist pumps. And I think we're at a point now where there's not a lot of polarization going on. Very, very hard not to admire this player, and just about everybody does.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the way that she fist pumps, when things are good and you feel like she has this positive groundswell of energy, you can really see it in the way that she performs, competes, and everything else. And I think the counter is true also. So really, really fun to watch. I hope we get to see more of that kind of March, April, early May type tennis from the Danimal. For those who are pod listeners, if you did not see the episode with Danielle Collins and you have a certain opinion on how she could be away from the court based on how demonstrative and in your face she is on the court, learn something about how it differs from on and off the court sometimes. I was fascinated by the interview she gave us. Introspective, pragmatic, responsible. It says she runs her life basically making the analogy that tennis players are a small business and you have to run. I thought it was a fascinating interview of which I learned a ton. A lot of times we do interviews and I know a lot going in, and my job is to make sure that that's represented in the answers that I try to get from people that I know well. I don't know Danielle Collins at all before, or I didn't before this interview. And I left that interview going, that was really interesting. I learned 7 new things about the way she goes about her business, about the way that she views the world past tennis. So go check out that old episode. Maybe we'll put it in the show notes or something. But it was really cool for us. And that was kind of in the midst of when she kind of had it going during Rome and post Miami and Charleston. But listen, we hope she gets everything she wants in her life, and we will be watching enthusiastically for her in 2025.